Oh my God.
Welcome back.
Hello, everybody.
It's been a while. I had a little bit of a hiatus.
Yeah, things changed. We moved.
We did move
We did. It was a big thing.
back to the old Bongmont.
Good old fucking Bongmont, man.
Yeah.
It's a good time, It's just it's a really great city that
Yeah.
it's just really alive and vibrant, really. So, just super happy to be back,
I know.
living with family.
I have this vivid memory of driving up Main Street with you, and it's like a Friday night in the summer sometime, maybe like 7, 8 o'clock at night, and there are just like people on the side of Main Street, like sitting in camp chairs and watching the cars go by.
Oh yeah,
And there were a significant amount of people.
yeah.
Like, it wasn't like there was like, no, there were like a good 100 people like lined on either side.
Mm-hmm. I think I saw that like there's this like car show thing that no, it's not. I mean, it's not like an official thing. I don't think, but it's just people take out their cars and people line the roads with their camping chairs and watch cars go
Watch
by.
like regular cars, but like the occasional cool one. Like, sure.
Yeah.
But that was like the thing to do on Friday night.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I'm not with it.
No,
I'll be honest, I'm not with it.
It's that's kind of the essence of Longmont right there for you.
Yeah, it's different.
If you wanted a little synopsis on it,
Yeah.
it's probably it,
Yeah. And it isn't even that cheap anymore. Like,
No, I mean, living next to Boulder,
yeah, no.
and Boulder is obviously, you can't find a house in Boulder for probably less than like 500 or 600,000.
Oh yeah, and even
Easily.
if you did find something that was like 500-600, it would be a piece of shit.
Oh yeah, it's a shack
yeah,
still.
it wouldn't be good.
It's like, those are like, you're paying that much for like college houses, you know?
Yeah.
Dinky
and like
little.
the ground itself is probably worth that much.
Yeah, easily. That's kind of what
No.
you're buying is like the property.
Exactly.
Not necessarily what's on it. 'Cause a lot of people go in there and then they buy the crappy house and then demolish it and
build
it,
something new.
People who have
Oh my God.
the money to do that. So
Talk about Denver too. Like,
yeah,
it's like every like at least every block in most of the residential areas in Denver, like one of the houses has either been is in the process of being demolished and rebuilt, or has been demolished and it has been rebuilt as a duplex of some kind, and they look great, but they are like so out of place.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah.
it's just the gentrification of it. And
Yeah, you see a lot of that, in Denver, where it's like, oh, there's a block of these really old, like 1960s, 70s houses.
even older than that.
Or
you
even,
know?
even older than that, for sure. And then there's just this, like, big, brand new duplex.
3-story duplex.
That looks super nice. And
Yeah.
yeah.
And I get why people do that. It's like they buy the land, demolish the house, they live on one side of the duplex and they rent out the other.
Yeah.
And like that's the only way it's affordable.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you get someone to pay half of your mortgage, or a little bit more than half, ideally.
Right.
It's just like, good Lord, like
Yeah.
that's how you have to do it in Denver these days.
Right. Really anywhere, though, now it's like,
Yeah.
it's crazy. Yeah, even in Longmont, but
Yeah, my parents, they got their property tax bill earlier this week, and they were talking to me about it. And when they moved to Longmont, like they were paying like between $1,000 and $2,000 in property tax every year.
yeah.
They're paying over $4,000 now.
Wow.
That's the bill this year.
Yeah.
It's like, and that's up like 15% just this year. It's like, wow, that's
Yeah.
gnarly.
Yeah.
That's gnarly.
That's pretty crazy. So we'll see. I don't know. That's
Getting really excited about buying a house.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, boy.
I'm still far way out from that.
But we'll do it when in due time.
Yeah. Might have to fucking move to Texas or something.
As fun as Texas sounds, I don't know.
Yeah.
You know,
I think there are good parts of Texas,
I think so too.
but at the same time, it's Texas.
Right. And
So
I think that the places that people usually talk about is like Austin or, you know, the surrounding area. And it's like Austin's just like Denver. It's so expensive now. You know, everybody wants to move there. The homeless problem, you know, I mean, that's everywhere in the United States, but I like, where are we going to move?
yeah,
Like, where are we going to go where it's going to be better?
right.
You know, and maybe we're asking for too much.
Yeah, maybe.
I can see that. I
Yeah.
can see us asking for too much in what we're looking for, but
Yeah,
at least we're not living in Ukraine.
this is true. Yeah.
It's been rough over there. I didn't realize how bad their like civil unrest was back in like 2014 when Russia.
Yeah, well, wasn't that kind of the start of it?
Yeah.
Wasn't it way back?
Yeah, so in 2013-14, they had a president who was very close to Russia and like was very much acting like a satellite state of Russia. And there was a popular uprising against him. And like he was putting snipers on top of the buildings and like shooting at the protesters.
Wow.
Like killing protesters. And I had no idea about that. I just like learned this the other day. But yeah, it was like a pretty violent like uprising, and he was eventually ousted. He exiled to Russia, naturally,
As you do.
as one does, and he has not been back. But you know, the Ukrainian government that came into power relatively democratically wants to be closer to the West, wants to be a part of NATO, wants to do that kind of thing. And Russia's not into that. And that's why we see that now. It's like, you know, that's why they have 125,000 troops on the border.
Yeah.
And Ukraine is like in this interesting position because Belarus is on the north of it, which is a satellite state of Russia. They're very close to Russia. And then they annexed Crimea, which is this little peninsula that shoots out into the Black Sea or one of the Caspian Sea, maybe. And they annexed that, which is essentially they took it over. You know, they moved on to it.
The Russians?
The Russians, yeah. Okay. And that was back in 2014. That's kind of where all of this started.
Okay.
It's like the annexing of Crimea. But they've been fighting like consistently since then.
Yeah, I keep seeing, I mean, throughout the years, I've seen, you know, these little videos of, these little like GoPro videos.
Right.
Of Ukrainian soldiers in the snow, like,
yeah.
And I'm like, what is going on?
Right.
You know, like I imagine what that would be like if it was here or anywhere else. You know, it's just so unbelievably Russian and Ukrainian to do.
It is so.
You know,
it is so.
To like just constantly be in like this guerrilla warfare type environment. Of,
yeah.
Like, just doing these little like operations, kind of.
Yeah,
like,
dude.
In
And
the
like,
dark. I don't know.
I mean, it's a legitimate hot war though. I mean, like they're using drones on each other. Mm-hmm. The big thing that Russia has a problem with is that the United States has been sending anti-tank missiles, so like the Javelin missiles, you know, like
yeah,
you know, and it shoots the missile off. They don't like those, and Russia has the largest tank force. You know, they got those T-90s, those really fancy T-90s.
Yeah, that's what that video that I was watching last night while we were on Xbox.
Yeah.
And it was like the military parade.
Yeah.
You know? And they're just driving like thousands of tanks down this like alley, you know, where all the soldiers are like saluting.
Yeah.
They're like looking at Putin. You know? And I was like, God damn, that's a lot of armor.
That's so much armor. And I mean, that's not even all of it, obviously.
Yeah.
But still, it's like,
those are the ones that they like really cleaned up and like got as many as they could and sent them through the parade, you know.
I mean, I was watching something on YouTube a few months ago, and it was like a tank obstacle course. So it was very interesting. I was blown away by this, and it's in Russia, like very, very Russian.
Yeah,
very Russian. And
how about a tank rally course or something.
So they started, and each team went one by one because they were doing live fire. Like they were shooting real rounds.
Okay.
So you had to, they'd start outside, like the crew would like run, jump, get in, drive it, go. The gunner has to get out and pick up the shells and throw them to the guy on the top.
Like 24 hours of Le Mans or something.
Yes.
You start outside of the car and run to it.
Yeah, exactly. So you have to go grab the shells, put them in, and then they drive to their firing point, their first firing point, and they have to hit like 2 of the 3 targets or something like that, and then they get a time penalty if they don't. And then they have to reverse, go back, go pick up different shells, go to a different firing position, and then they do this like weave thing with the tank, and then do one last firing position.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is fucking sick for one. I mean, I thought it was awesome.
Yeah.
But it was all in Russian, and it was like propaganda in a way. Like I definitely got the feeling that it was like
this is our capability kind of thing, like showing the power of
right. You know, it's like it was just like this is what we do. This is who we are. Like this is very much a part of Russian culture, and like this is really badass. And like coming from the United States perspective of we have a really badass military, but I can't remember the last time I actually saw like something like that.
Yeah.
Because I don't think there has been one.
Yeah.
It's like you can't go and like watch M1 Abrams tanks like doing that.
Right. It's not really a part of like, I mean, the U.S. military definitely boasts its power in other ways, but when it comes to that type of, you don't really see that. That's not how I don't think we do it necessarily. Just a different way.
We're a little more
like,
low key about it, right?
Yeah, definitely.
We're just like
we're a lot cooler about it.
What is that saying? Walk quietly, but carry a big stick. Is that a saying?
I heard that one before. It could. I mean, hey man.
Hey Jamie, look that up. Look
that up, Jamie.
Thank you. Jamie. Yeah, I don't know, but we were gonna talk about. Did you hear about Sony buying Bungie?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's big.
Yeah, it's pretty big news. I mean, you know, what is it? Beginning of January, about a month ago, 3 weeks ago, maybe. Microsoft bought Activision Blizzard,
right?
Which has a whole umbrella of studios beneath it, and Microsoft bought that company for almost $70 billion, which is insane.
Huge money.
Huge. So now, and Activision Blizzard, like Activision publishes Call of Duty, all those big franchises.
Right.
Blizzard does like World of Warcraft, like all that side of gaming, I guess you could say. And then, now PlayStation's bought Bungie, although a lot of people think it's in like direct sort of response to Microsoft buying all those studios, which you could see it as that, as like an initial reaction. Although it's not, because those deals take months and months and they talk forever.
Yeah.
Like Bungie came out to say that it wasn't in response to Microsoft, and they had been talking about it for like 5-6 months.
Yeah.
So
it makes sense.
But it's interesting how Bungie goes from in the beginning of the 2000s to making Halo, arguably one of the biggest gaming franchises ever, and then splits off from them, and then goes independent for a while, and then goes over to the other side at Sony. So
and Microsoft still owns Halo. They still own that franchise.
Yeah, I was reading comments on like I think a TikTok or something like that. That people are like, Sony did it to like buy Halo, like they're doing it for Halo. It's like, no, Microsoft still owns Halo.
Right.
That's still their intellectual property. But 343 Industries is making that game now underneath Microsoft.
Right.
And Bungie just makes Destiny at the moment. And really the deal, from what I understand, is more of sort of not taking away any creative like not taking away any creative sort of what am I trying to say? Like
creative capability or like
yeah, like any creative
free reign, like what they're working on, or like
yeah. So they're not trying to influence like what they're doing with Destiny.
sure.
At the moment, I think the deal was more of expanding the IP of Destiny, like going into TV shows or like movies.
Oh, right.
Because Sony's such a big player in that with
Exactly.
making like the Spider-Man movies and all that.
And like Halo is coming out with a TV show.
Yeah.
Or is it a TV show or a movie?
It's a TV show.
Okay,
on
so
Paramount Plus or something.
Yeah. So and Sony is obviously definitely in that. I mean, they produce movies and produce TV shows.
Yeah.
So that's probably a really good point because we got into Destiny recently.
Yeah, dude,
and
it's literally taken over my life.
No, it's
For the past couple weeks.
it's like the I think it really commands the interest and the I don't know, you're just like you want to play it. It's an interesting storyline, even though there isn't a very clear storyline. It's like it's engaging enough like Halo is, because like Halo was very simple. There were only a few game modes, and then there was a really interesting campaign.
Yeah.
And it was still so successful.
Yeah.
And I think that Bungie did a really good job of developing a game that is still really engaging. It might not have that same campaign and like focus to it, but where they lack in that, they've created so much around it because it's like it's so complex.
Yeah, it's very intricate.
There's so much to it.
Yeah. And, you know, there is actually a huge story behind and like lore, if you will,
Right.
behind Destiny that they've written in. And so us joining the game, like, 5 years after it's now released, because it came out in 2017 or something.
Destiny 2 did?
Destiny 2 did, yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
2017. So joining now, like they've had like 4 expansions and stuff. Like
Right.
all that is like story. There's story, you know, going back to like the first Destiny and
Sure.
all that. So there definitely is. It's just not. Yeah, it's not as like clear cut as Halo was, where it's like
You start the campaign,
yeah,
and then you go to multiplayer.
yeah, and it's very Halo is good at like just capturing new players. Like there is a ton of story behind Halo as well.
Right.
Before, you know, the first game that came out, like books, there's like 50 books and all this stuff. But yeah, they made it much more consumer friendly for the new audience and so it
Yeah.
just blew up. And it's
Right.
like, and not to mention, it's obviously like really good, you know, gameplay. Like the core gameplay is, you know, also amazing. And for that time in 2001, when the first one came out, it was groundbreaking, you know,
Yeah.
just continued to, and then 343 took over and it was kind of like, yeah, but
Yeah. I mean, the new one was still good.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think it captured the same kind of awe and like aura of the originals, like
Right.
the original 3. Because didn't 343 start on Reach?
no, Bungie made Reach.
Bungie made Reach?
was kind of their last.
Okay.
One.
And
They
then
made, like-
ODST was still Bungie?
Yeah. Yeah.
And which one? So Halo 4 was the first 343.
Yeah.
Got it.
That's where they started. They did Halo 5 Guardians. And then 6 years later, they made Halo Infinite. So,
Wonderful.
Wunderbar.
Wunderbar.
Yeah. So it's, and Sony bought Bungie for $3.6 billion. So,
Good God.
speaking about billions, Mark Zuck.
Oh, yeah. Big stock tumble.
Yeah.
Big stock tumble.
Yeah.
Could you imagine in one day losing $30 billion through you didn't do anything wrong per se, but you just like lost $30 billion of your net worth in one day.
You think about it, $1 billion is pretty incomprehensible.
Right.
If you really think about $1 billion, to me, it's like almost unfathomable. That amount of money. I mean, when it comes to like seeing the numbers, it makes sense. But when you think about how much you can do with that,
Yeah.
how much maybe like power per se that you have with that, and then you 30 billion. 30 of that
A billion is 1,000 millions.
Correct.
And
Math.
yeah, I know. Fucking zeros. You know, it like for any of us regular folk out here, it's not going to be a situation where it's like, oh, I have $1 billion. Like I have set 9 zeros, 10 zeros. 10 zeros is $1 billion.
Yes.
10 zeros. Yeah, 10 zeros.
Yeah. Now we're in math class.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
It's, I guess, 9 zeros.
9 zeros and hopefully a 1 there. Or maybe.
Well, it'd have to be a 1 if it was $1 billion.
Yes, it would have to be a 1. Anyways.
Anyway.
Oh, my God. So, yeah, you got 9 zeros in your bank account plus a 1 or something. What would you spend it on? You like, what are you going to... It's going to take a long time to spend that much money.
Yeah.
And in Zuckerberg's case, he's lost 30 of those in one day.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, holy shit, could you imagine? And it's like, I couldn't imagine having that many zeros in my bank account in the first place.
Yeah. That's like 30 billion to him is like me losing like $30. I'm like, oh shit, you know? It's like, to him, that's probably like, oh man, like that sucks. You know?
Fuck.
Yeah, you're like, fuck. And it's like, oh, if I lose $30, I'm like, oh fuck, man.
Yeah, right.
Where'd that, you know, if it just disappeared, I'd be like, oh.
It's a couple drinks, man.
That's the discrepancy between the two. You know what I mean?
And that's I mean,
to us common folk.
In some ways, that's really atrocious to me. Like, I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
It's like, we could talk all day about the wealth gap and what that means for society, but at the same time, just like on a purely like ridiculous level, it's just like why are we talking about it? Like, why are we worried about it? It's not like it's not gonna hurt his bottom line.
Yeah.
He's still gonna have the fucking 10 houses he has. He's still gonna fucking build on the metaverse, or, you know, like, he's gonna do all that stuff.
Yeah. What do you think about the metaverse and stuff?
I think it's interesting.
They've officially changed their name from Facebook to Meta, right?
Yeah, the parent company, definitely. I mean, I think it's cool. I mean, all this stuff that's happening and that we're building, or that other people are building, I think it's cool. I think it's gonna move. It's gonna allow the economy to evolve in new ways, so that, because like what we're facing here is like, people are gonna not want to do certain jobs, or those jobs are gonna be automated. Right? So like, how are people gonna make money? And, you know, it's gonna be stuff in the metaverse, probably. You know, it's like, you're gonna spend your time in the metaverse doing something, and whether that's like, you know, there could be people who are like farmers who spend their time leveling up a character, or, you know, doing certain tasks in the metaverse, and then selling that time spent, per se, to someone else.
Yeah, I don't know really anything about the metaverse per se, but I'm very interested with the transition to that, and how it's going to be accepted by everybody, and how much time that's going to take.
Right.
And, you know, as a society, or as a world, as a human race, like, accepting that's like that would be the new norm, you know,
right.
like living in like VR and like all that
interacting
stuff.
in VR.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That it's like kind of the new thing. I think it's definitely throughout the years gotten a lot of pushback from people, which is rightly so. It's like, it's very counterintuitive to what we've been doing for thousands of years, you know,
and
like,
it's also kind of like, you know, it's just like, it's like your parents telling you like, oh, you can only spend so much time on your computer, or like, you can only watch TV for an hour.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, now it's like, we have this opportunity to spend literally the entire day.
Right.
And how is that going to negatively impact our psyche, our health, all that stuff?
You know, it also, I think, talking about the transition, it's like, you know, our parents only say that because they didn't grow up with video games or around technology.
Right,
so
right.
when we grow up, and we're not necessarily like fully integrated within the metaverse.
Right.
We've like played video games and like know much more about technology that influences our children.
Right.
Okay, then our children, like they're probably going to be more integrated within like VR and stuff like that. That's going to influence. So it just takes time, you know. It's not going to be like, oh yeah, everybody's now, you know, in that space of the metaverse and like doing all, you know, it just takes time. And but yeah, it's still very interesting to me of how we're sort of transitioning into that space. And it's been, you know, VR's been out for like 10-ish years now.
But I think it's accelerating a lot. You know, it's like
I feel like just had these like ups and downs. It's really weird, like that whole space of technology.
Well, I think that people had the expectation that it was going to be like really good, especially with stuff like Ready Player One was like, I mean, obviously it's a movie. It's going to be super crisp, super nice. And then you actually engage with a lot of the games and it's like it's very limited or it's very crude. You know, like the graphics aren't great, the rendering is not great. But that's just going to continue to increase.
Right.
You know, it's like when you can put the thing on your head and it has the processing capability at a reasonable price point to like actually render something really nice, then you're going to be like, holy shit. You know, I think in 10 years we're going to be talking about like, wow, like what's the next suit that you can put on, the next haptic suit that you can put on, or the next one that's coming out.
Yeah.
That you can really get some like hard, oh, I can feel those like the bullets or something like that.
No, for sure. I mean, and you know, comparing VR to traditional games and that experience, the 2D experience, if you will,
Right.
You think about the development of that, and it's been, I mean, 50-ish years in the making. If you go back to like arcade
Game
games
Boys
and like,
stuff,
yeah, I mean, I'm talking about like, like Pong,
Sega,
or what's the
Pong,
right?
Yeah,
where you hit the little thing, yeah.
And even before that, like PacMan and like the ones where you had to go to the actual place to do it, like that might be a thing. You had to go to a brick and mortar VR place to like, and they have those. Have you seen that video of the kid who's like, he's like saying something, he like turns and he like, you know, he like looks at something and then he turns and he starts running.
Yeah. You see those like in Vegas and stuff.
Right. Yeah.
I remember seeing just like one of those stores. We would go in and have like a VR experience because it's like so rare and like nobody, you know, it's still in like kind of that state. But and then when, you know, VRs come around, it is just going to take time to like get to the point where traditional video games are at with its like rendering and how it looks and the experience and like the immersion, you know, of that. And a lot of games are like integrating VR with their game. You know, It's becoming like this sort of, I don't know, balancing act almost of like making it for the traditional consumer, but also if you want and you have the capability or you have the headset, you can also experience the game in VR, you know?
Right.
Yeah, so.
I mean, especially with the, like, you know, tying it back to Sony and Microsoft buying those studios. It's like if they can put more money behind that development, you could probably get something where it's applicable to the console and to the desktop, but also works in VR to some extent.
Yeah.
And, you know, the more that they work on that, I think, you know, you're going to be having game offerings that work on the console, work on the desktop, and also work in VR seamlessly.
Right.
You know, we're going to get cross-platform going into VR.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah, it's also important to realize that there's always going to be that casual consumer who buys just an Xbox and has that. And then there's the more like intermediate to then like high level and they're buying the VR headset. So you have to like cater to all of that.
Exactly.
If you really want to like, you know, spread your arms as far as you can and capture as many people that you can for the gaming industry.
Yeah. I don't know. It's going to be big stuff.
Yeah, I'm excited to see where it goes. I'm not completely sold on it yet. Maybe I'm just old fashioned, you know.
You could be. I don't know. You got that hair flip going on.
It's very 1920s.
Yes, dude. Yes. Big birthday guy over here.
That's true.
Yeah. What are you, 12?
I am 12.
I am 12.
Yeah. Mother effing 25.
Yeah, big 25.
And
Quarter cinch.
yeah, feels interesting.
Yeah.
You know, my mother called me last night,
Nice.
and you know, typically from a mother you would think, oh, you know, honey, you're doing so well, and although she did say that,
I see where this is going already.
you know, she's like, oh, you know, usually they're just, you know, a little bit, but my mom was like, you know, from now on you're closer to 30 than you are to 20.
Shit.
And, you know, that really hit.
Yeah.
And so thanks, Mom. You know,
Yeah.
really, really got in my head.
Yeah.
So that's nice.
I mean, maybe that was what she was going for, to be fair.
Going for what?
Like to get in your head about it.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's like, well, that's just kind of what I experienced, and, you know, this and that. I'm like, you
Mom.
know, I didn't really want to think about that right now. The day before my birthday, turning 25, that every second I live now is closer to 30 than it is to 20.
Well, until you pass 30 and then you go and...
I know. But, I mean, 30, I told her this, I was like, 30 is just a really scary thought. It's crazy.
Right.
Like, 25 is like, you are like fully an adult, I believe.
Yeah, peak male performance.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. The test is at an all-time high, and you're really just kind of...
Brain's finally developed.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah, the frontal lobe is finally there.
Oh, we're really rocking up here, baby.
But then, yeah, 30 is like, whew,
yeah.
kind of, you're pretty far gone then, you know?
Yeah, pretty far gone.
Yeah.
And like, hopefully we got a little bit more figured out by then.
Hopefully.
I mean, we got 5 years. I mean, to be fair, though, you think about it, it's like, okay, where was I 5 years ago? Because I turned 25 in June.
I thought about that too.
It's like, where was I 5 years ago? And I'm
Yeah.
like, I was barely out of teenager.
Yeah.
Barely out of being a teenager, and had no idea how to do half the shit that I know now.
Yeah. I mean, I get, you know, Snapchat memories of 5 years ago today, you know, this and that.
The frosted tips,
I'm like,
bro.
dude, like, oh my God, this guy knew fuck all. And I still know fuck all.
But a little bit more.
But
a little bit more.
You know, just a fraction of a bit more.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's interesting to think about how much more I'll know when I'm 30.
Jeez. Hopefully,
Where I'll be and-
the learning is accelerating.
Yeah,
you know?
hopefully we're on an upward trajectory with that.
Yeah.
With the knowledge.
The knowledge.
Yeah, it's, you know, sometimes I'm like, oh, I know quite a bit. And then there's other times where I'm like, you know nothing, Jon Snow, you know?
You know nothing.
It's like, it's interesting. 25 is pretty, so far. What are we?
12 hours in.
12 hours in? It's pretty interesting.
We're rocking and rolling, baby.
We're rocking, dude.
Hell
So,
yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see where it goes, you know?
Any resolutions for the next 5 years? Or at least start with this year. What's the resolution for this year? Like, what are we working on this year?
You know, I mean, we were talking about this last weekend. We were driving to Fort Collins to see our baddies.
Our dudes.
But, you know, finding something, I'd like to find more creative outlets to sort of express myself, as cliche as that sounds. Just kind of being able to find stuff that I'm passionate about, you know?
Yeah.
And do that as, you know, it starts out as a hobby or whatever, and you kind of do it on your free time. But yeah, kind of exploring that a little bit more. I'd like to, you know, because I have a lot of things, you know, I've done like 3D rendering and modeling, 3D modeling, stuff like that, which I'm really interested in. And Blender is a really cool, you know, open source tool to use, and did all that stuff. But yeah, and like this, you know, like podcasting, like bringing this back, is also something that I'm interested in.
Yeah.
With, you know, because it does feel, I remember us doing this before, and it felt really good to sort of make something yourself and publish something and put it out
Yeah.
there, and knowing that you put in the time and effort to
Yeah.
do that, and it doesn't really matter how many people listen or watch. It's sort of that feeling that like you made
something for fun.
You
Yeah.
made something.
And it's something that, it's like when like as silly as it was, like even in college, like you finish a project and it's like, I didn't like doing that per se, but you feel good about it after.
Right.
Whereas like with the podcast or with any of these things, it's like, it's actually fun to do.
Yeah.
Yes, there's a little bit of like work involved with
For sure.
like, quote unquote work, but it makes it interesting. It makes it fun. And then at the end, you're like, I have something to show for it.
Right.
And it was really cool the other day. I was thinking about it. And I was like, maybe I should start the podcast again. And my mom, like she was just sitting there. And I was like, did you ever listen to the podcast that we made? And she was like, no. And she turned it on. She listened to like 3 episodes that day.
Really?
Yeah. She just like, she was like, wow, like, I can't believe you did this. Like, this is really like good. And, like we were just messing around we were sitting in my bedroom. I mean, we're still sitting in my bedroom, but
Yeah.
don't
have a studio yet.
I know
per
in
se.
the studio this year though, man.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
I mean, you're right. You're right on. It's just, having these hobbies where you can express yourself and, committing to those, just spending the time on it every week.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's something that I've set out for myself this year, and hearing you being on top of that as well. Fucking awesome, dude.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I'd like to, kind of pursue that a little bit this year and see where that goes. I'm just interested in like nowadays you can just put out content, whatever it may be, and it might click with people, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
And in what I'm thinking of specifically is like, I follow a lot of like 3D artists and stuff on Instagram, and they're just kind of doing their own thing and posting whatever, and it clicks, whatever.
Yeah.
If they're doing tutorials or they're just doing like these cool renderings.
Yeah.
Or I follow this guy who works at Santa Monica Studios it's a Sony company who makes God of War, and he's just, the 3D modeling artist, and he just makes really sick work. I'm like,
Yeah.
damn, like I would love to do some stuff like that.
Yeah.
Or like I'm looking at like Destiny, and like the amount of detail that's in that game is really like, wow, that's like some stuff that I aspire to do, and like the art direction. There's a very specific art direction that they're going for. All that stuff interests me. So
Yeah, and you do it as a hobby or it's just doing something for fun. It's like it might gain some traction. Great.
Yeah.
But
or you start doing some like freelance work if you
Sure.
start building your portfolio.
exactly,
With that.
you just continue to build the portfolio of stuff that you're working on, and if anybody does come around, it's like, wow, I actually kind of dig this. Like, I dig what you're doing here. I like this stuff, or I just can tell that you're passionate about it. Then all of a sudden, the thing that was your hobby that you actually liked doing and spending your time on suddenly becomes the thing that you can actually make some money on.
Right.
And like, that's the dream, man.
Yeah.
That's
for
the fucking
sure.
dream.
Yeah. You see people, doing that all the time on social media, and a lot of people are like, oh, I wish I kind of did that. I fall victim to that. Like,
Yeah.
well, that'd be sick if I did that. But then it's like, oh, I got to do this and that before I get there. And you kind of get
Right.
bogged down by the steps you have to take
Yep.
in order to do that. Like another part of me like wants to start streaming and stuff. I think that'd be really fun to like entertain and stuff like that. I think streaming at its core is obviously entertainment with like the game you're playing or whatever you may be doing on stream. But it's also like, how you interact with the people watching you and stuff. I think that's another kind of cool, fun aspect about that. But it's like, oh man, I gotta buy this like a $2,000 PC if I want to do that, or like, have to buy all this equipment. There's like this barrier to entry kind of thing. But that's not to say that I can't slowly work up to like, buy PC parts individually and like slowly work up to that.
Yeah.
To whether I, have a full PC and can start possibly doing that,
I mean, some of it's monetary investment, and then some of it is just like this is something I want to do, and I'm gonna spend the time to do it.
That's a really good point. Is like, yeah, some of it is you shelling out some money for it, but the other is like the passion that you have for it and the time that you're going to invest in it.
Yeah.
So what does that look like for you, and how much time are you going to put into that?
Exactly.
What is that? How important is it to you, kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, if you don't spend time on something, it doesn't happen. It doesn't get done.
Right.
And like I've definitely realized that recently. Starting that kind of journey of going into being a content creator and figuring out what I want to do with it.
Yeah.
What I've realized is like, if I just create something, it's going to get traction somewhere.
Right.
Like even as simple as like just like, the dipping my toe in was posting every Friday like 4 or 5 songs that I found from.
Yeah, that's true. Like even that is like I was noticing that. I'm like, he's doing this every week.
Every week.
And that, I think that kind of, it says something about like what, I don't know, like what you sort of want to, like you said, dipping your toe in. It's like doing something every week. People are kind of responding to that and engaging a little bit. So it's like, okay, well, this could, this kind of works. Let's try something else.
Every single week I get some sort of engagement with it.
Yeah.
And, some weeks it's more, some weeks it's less, obviously. But every week people know I'm going to put 4 or 5. And if they see it, they see it. If they scroll right through it, no big deal.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not the most time spent, but it's the consistency thing.
Yeah.
And then starting with the video that I made and put out yesterday of just me making a fucking tuna or chicken salad sandwich.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's me learning how to video edit and put together something. And I had so much engagement from it, just from my Instagram followers. Like it's a captive audience, obviously, but I had so many people just reach out and be like, I love this. Like, do it again. Like, I want more sandwiches.
Yeah.
Or I want more, cooking. Yeah. And that was like, holy shit. It took me probably an hour 20 to do the whole thing. Mm-hmm. And then I sat on it for 2 days and was like, kind of look like an idiot in this video. Like, it's not great.
Right.
It's not my, it's not my most comfortable representation of like what I know I can do.
Right.
But it's a start. And it was authentic, and
I think that's all that it is, dude. I think it boils down to like authenticity of what you're making. And if people can see that authenticity in your whatever content you're making and that it's genuine, I think people are much more likely to engage with that.
No doubt.
And sort of like relate to that a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Which is, I think, a cool thing. So yeah, if you just keep it genuine, like those are the people that I like to follow. I think it's the people that everybody likes to follow who's doesn't come off as fake or doing it for money. They're genuinely passionate about that. I think that like resonates with people the most.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I think you're spot on with that.
Yeah. So I think we could get something going here,
Yeah, fuck it.
Why not?
25. Let's do something big.
I mean, come on, bro. We got
Come
nothing
on,
to lose,
bro.
dude. I ain't doing shit.
I ain't doing shit. Alrighty, well, hey man, episode 12. Log it in the books.
Log it in the books. Write it down.
Come on.
Ship it out.
Yeah. All right. Catch us next week.
Thanks for listening.
We'll do it again next week.
We'll do it again next week.
All right.
Peace.